Welcome back to the Daily Rundown. I'm Dan Morfitt. Thank you for watching. It's time for something to say. This is where I open the floor to my fantastically opinionated guests to tell us something which has caught their attention this week. Are they going to be fantastically corrupt? So, Madie, would you like to kick us off with your something to say, please?
Sure, I want to talk about poetry.
Oh.
That's a good reaction, because sometimes I say that and people's eyes sort of glaze over, because I don't feel like it's as popular as it used to be. If you think about sort of previous eras in history, especially like the Romantic era, you know, poets like Byron, he was a celebrity. Some say the first celebrity, because poets had real influence, and we sort of read more and committed to it, because you really have to read a poem twice to understand it almost at first read, if you know what I'm saying, because it has depth. And I just think that poetry is a powerful tool to express yourself. So I write poetry and I recommend it to other people. It can either be like a catharsis for your feelings, or just something where you want to write about a particular event and just try a new way of writing that isn't just blogging or tweeting or something that comes instantly to you, you know?
In poetry for you perform poetry, you do spoken word gigs. Is it all about hearing a poet read their poems, or sometimes is it like an introspective thing that you can do at home and just read it on the page?
Yeah, so I guess that's what I was saying, is in there's two ways that I look at it. I really like poetry gigs. There's such a thing called a poetry voice. I'm a fan of it. Some people scoff at it, and it's the idea that you could say anything, but as long as you said it like that, it would be poetry, you know? And that's the idea of a poetry voice. I kind of think it's really nice and melodic, depending upon how very sincere you are.
I agree that people should do stuff like that more. Do you think because it's kind of in the realm of the arts, that people who want to try it might be a little bit scared of doing it because it's kind of putting themselves out there a bit?
Yeah, and I do hear that a lot. People sometimes are impressed as though they couldn't do it, or they feel like they can't.
Yeah.
But that's not true. As long as you have a grasp of a language, you can make poetry out of it, and it's not just rhymes.
Yeah.
Although I'm a fan of rhyming poetry, some people aren't, and poetry doesn't have to rhyme, and I think that's most effective when you are saying it.
Is it something that, because at school you're taught poetry, you're not told to love poetry? At school you don't get taught about pop songs.
Yeah.
So it's just something you enjoy. So people might not enjoy poetry later on in life because they got forced to do it when they were 11. And they had to do it for an exam, and they had to read the subtext and what emotions is the poet trying to bring across. Surely it's something just to enjoy.
Yeah, and if you're older, obviously you've got more life experience, so surely it's a more valid expression if you're older, because you've got more life experience to then draw upon.
I do agree with you. I think if you're a teenager, you should definitely write poetry.
Yeah.
Because you have all that junk in your head, all those hormones and all of those emotions that you especially sincerely believe in. I wrote loads of abysmal poetry when I was a teenager.
When you're a teenager, you're bulletproof, aren't you? You kind of, when you're a teenager, just go blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm awesome, I'll just do this.
Putting the world to rights, I will be Morrissey one day.
Yeah.
That was basically what I would write as a teen.
Would you say Morrissey's a poet, and you know, even
completely.
Lennon and McCartney are poets, and let's go even left field and say, you know, some of the proper early hip hop and rap, you know, Tribe Called Quest, that's poetry.
Yeah, no, hip hop and rap completely is poetry. It's a completely valid form of expression. Someone like Nicki Minaj, she gets a lot of press just for having sort of catchy pop songs, and people assume she's not talented. Completely not. She's a great poet. So I think anyone can be a poet, basically.
I'm going to use another awful phrase that I'd never thought I'd use. Surely poetry nowadays is the perfect snackable content, because it's not a novel, it's not a depressing article that you're probably going to read online. It's not a textbook. It's this beautiful thing that it could be 12 lines long, it could be a haiku, or it could be something as long as Coleridge and the Ancient Mariner.
Yeah, there are loads of different forms of poems, and haikus even, you can tweet them, pretty sure.
5 syllables,
Maybe.
7 syllables, 5 syllables?
Yes.
With a haiku. If there was one, oh God, this is a lot of pressure now.
Okay.
There's one poem that you could recommend someone to read tonight, what would it be?
The Mask of Anarchy by Shelley. He's a romantic poet. Percy Shelley, you probably know. But the romantic poets are, in my opinion, the best poets, as in I enjoy them the most. And Shelley was political, but he was also melodic, and there's real meaning there and meat, and it's easy to understand. Although I do love the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which is obviously great. So.
John?
What, poems? Or what? And, I had a big book of stuff by Ogden Nash.
I had Ogden Nash at my wedding.
So just grab some Ogden Nash and off you go.
When you say that, what do you mean?
As a reading.
Really?
Yeah, about divorce. At a
No
wedding.
way.
It was really, really nice.
There's like a 2-line one, which is kind of, there's something about hippopotamus, there's something very presumptuous about hippopotamus, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. It might not be about hippopotamus, but it's literally just 2 lines.
Ogden Nash also came up with candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker.
Yes, he did.
Which was then stolen by Willy Wonka. So poetry, worth it, always.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Get into it.
Maddie, thank you for your something to say. John, now you haven't been on this Blue Bonquette for a while.
For a while, no.
So you've had an opportunity to build up either a rant or a passion or a praise that you want to
I
give.
went on off a massive rant about cider once. I'll say it and I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Improvisation, the value, everyone should do it. It's kind of like, it's not really developed in this country as a thing much. It kind of is. There's a lot of it in London, in the Midlands, in like the Northwest. It's coming up as a thing. It's a lot more popular than it used to be.
So when you say improv, Maddie's a comic and a poet.
Yeah.
You're a stand-up and you also do some character comedy as well.
Yes, I do, and I employ improvisation in that, and I'm part of a group called Comedy Sports that are comedy improv, and improv is broader than that. Mm-hmm. Improv is broader. You can have like theatrical and free form. But even the very basics, because it's like the discussion that it's kind of, do you do improv? Okay, what's that? That's just kind of making stuff up, isn't it? No, actually, it's not just making stuff up. It is a particular trainable skill which involves listening and responding in a way where you kind of free your mind of anything that's in there before you reply. So you don't go into a conversation with an agenda about what I need to talk about. You actually focus first. The listening is the first thing to go. When you interact with someone and you've got stuff in your head and they've got stuff in their head, it's kind of like, all right, I'm not really listening to you because I'm too busy thinking about the thing that I'm going to say next. So I'll look at you and I'm busy thinking about the next thing that I'm going to say. And it's just the ability to get rid of that and actually listen, absorb and respond.
It sounds like comic meditation.
It is. It's like I've been doing yoga for a year and I've got this Venn diagram in my head of this kind of like, I know it's kind of, what do you call it? Like that mindfulness thing that's all kind of, I don't quite know what it is, but I think I know what it is, but what is it? That point where you clean your mind of everything, and in yoga it's kind of meditative and you're just kind of at peace with yourself, whereas in improv the speed of the things that are going on around you are very fast, but you more or less in the same state when you're doing it. Maybe I'm building it up to something. I'm very passionate about it because I think everybody should try it and give it a go. Certainly in the world that we live in now, where everyone's just kind of like, I'm on my phone, I'm on my phone constantly, and I'm sure it's only a matter of time before they give a name to kind of this kind of desensitized process of, I'm far more comfortable looking at my phone than I am looking in your eyes because I've never met you before, so looking at you for any more than 10 seconds is absolutely terrifying. Or engaging with you is terrifying because I don't know where I am or what I'm doing and I've never met you, so I just want to leave and look on my phone because that's easier.
So improv's about looking up and listening and responding and engaging. Most people will know some form of improv in this country from like Whose Line It Is It Anyway with Clive Anderson. And
it's awful that that's the only reference point we've got. A show that's over like, 15, 20 years old, I mean, it beggars belief to me that in America, if you go to America, like Chicago, I mean, admittedly Chicago is the home of improv, but they have dedicated theatres of improvisation, and they teach it in schools in the same way that they might teach drama here. And yes, drama has an overlap, but obviously drama is in the same way that comedy is different to improv because it's about the scripted written word. drama is about learning a play. So you learn the play and you apply the performance. Whereas improv it's almost like the fundamental building blocks underneath that.
Well, in America, some of the biggest celebrities and biggest actors are former improv people like Steve Carell and Stephen Colbert and Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
All did like Second City and the Groundlings and stuff like that.
They did. And that you can see that in the way they perform, and you can see that in the way that because that's how that informs the writing process. They'll have an idea, they'll improv some of it, and then they'll try and loosely tie it to a script, and the script just might be bullet pointed because it's topical. They've got to do it fast, so they haven't got time to go away and do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 rewrites of a script. We do it and we capture the moment, and we do it like that.
People say that, don't they, when they do movies and going, oh, we did improv this bit and it became part of the film.
Yeah.
So you are part of a group that has got affiliation with American groups as well, haven't you? Comedy Sports.
Yes, Comedy Sports.
Z, or Z.
Comedy Sports with a Z is the group that I'm part of, and we're the only kind of the British branch of an American franchise, and there's like 20 cities in America and one in Berlin, and we're the only one in the UK that do it. And we do a lot of that stuff, and it's hard to explain because there's not. Because of what it is, it's really crap to do an elevator pitch for it, which I wouldn't want to do anyway. But I think what I'm saying is everyone should give improv a go, because the way that I see kind of culture going with people just kind of retreating into themselves because of the climate of fear, it's kind of like, what if I said to you, just go and talk to someone in the street you don't know tomorrow? It's kind of, would you do it?
Well, yeah, I would, to be honest with you. I use my phone all the time, and I love talking to new people.
But you'd be on tenterhooks, wouldn't you? You'd be like, well, do I do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I might be scared of doing, but I would do it now. I just think back to, say, before we had mobile phones and before we had all this, where you kind of, your parents, your grandparents would happily just kind of walk up to anyone they knew and just chat to them.
So if you want...
So you would just chat to somebody, fine, you wouldn't have a problem with just kind of walking up to someone you didn't know and just...
Yeah, completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want something social again in the future, whether you want to watch it or even better do it, look up some local improv and just search for, say, Comedy Sports with a Z.
Search for Comedy Sports with a Z. Do
UK,
that. Yeah.
And find out
I'm
more
not selling it, but yeah, do that.
You can't sell it, you've got to do it.
Yeah, you've got to do it.
As the same with poetry. Thank you both for your some things to say. We're going to go to another break now, but please don't go away. I'll be back with my guest in just a minute with some of the more strange stories of the day here on the Daily Rundown.